Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I have sent a video to you guys, and I am so sorry. There's so much to catch you up on, and so that's kind of what this video is going to be, just a quick life update, what's been going on, where I've been, and just give you all the details. So if you are new, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Again, my name is Stephanie, and my husband and I are just documenting our journey through our marriage, our faith, our IVF journey, and into our pregnancy with our first little baby boy. And if he wakes up, I will go grab him and give you guys a little peek of how big he is now. So to get started, I got a different job or a new position within my company while I was out, and then this one is just much more demanding, and so it takes a lot more of my time. I'm working longer hours, and so that's one thing that's been going on. But the other thing is that Matthew went into this cycle where I don't know that I want to call it the 4-month sleep regression, because it happened after he turned 4 months, but he was getting to where he would like sleep through the night. He would wake up between like 4 and 5 and want to eat, and that was totally fine. But then it just started like creeping up to where he would wake up earlier and earlier, and it just got to where I couldn't even pump at night anymore, because I was still pumping at night around between like midnight and 1, just to that's where I was getting my stash from, and it just made me nervous that it would like lose my supply. And the lactational consultant that I follow on Instagram, she had always recommended you wait until like at least 5 to 6 months. So that was my goal. I was just going to do it until he turned 6 months, and then I was going to start weaning off. And then he started going through this thing, and it got to the point where I couldn't pump, and it was just so stressful. One of the other things that we did whenever he turned about 5.5 months, we got him dedicated at church, and I will insert a couple pictures here. And that was just such a fun day, because some of our family members came to church with us and celebrated with us and celebrated with him, and it was just such a fun day. And literally 2 days later, Matthew got sick, and don't want my video to get flagged or anything, so we're just gonna say the big C. He started running a fever late Monday night, and at like midnight, this is in the middle of him sleeping terrible, so I was already in his room with him, and he just started feeling really warm. So I took his temperature again, and it was up to 102.6. So I called my husband into the room and asked him, do we kind of wait a little bit? Do we go ahead and go? What do we do? And we finally made the decision, because I had called my doctor's office after hours. Of course, that's when your baby always gets sick, right? And nobody had called me back yet. And so I wasn't sure how much Tylenol to give him. He hadn't been sick before yet, so I wasn't sure what dosage to give him. The instruction on the box just say, see your doctor, and something like that doesn't help me. And I didn't want to go down the Google rabbit hole, so I was like, I'm not going to do anything until I know more. So, and he was not even 6 months yet, so I knew it was only Tylenol that we could do, so we just decided we were just going to go to the hospital. So we went to Children's and checked him into the emergency room. They ran some tests, and they said at first that he had an ear infection. Okay, fine. Well, then they came back and said, no, he also has the big C. And I'm like, how? Me and Jason didn't have it. Our family members that we were around didn't have it. Like, how is this possible? So, so they admitted us because we could not get his fever to come down, and we could not get his heart rate to come down. It was so high. And that whole experience, him being sick was one thing. I mean, no parent wants to see their babies sick ever. But the most traumatizing part of that was the fact that they had to put an IV in, and they could not get it in his hands. So they blew both of his little veins in his hands. And then they finally had to go in like up in his arm. That was the worst. Him running a fever and just wanting to like be cuddly was one thing. Seeing him scream and cry and be traumatized from them trying to do that, I am telling you, I cried, but I was trying to be so strong, but it broke my husband down. And that broke my heart, because I know what hearing Matthew cry does to my husband. So if you have subscribed, you know our story, and you know that my husband was in the military. He was in the Navy, and he was a corpsman, and so he was actually with the Marine and overseas. And so hearing Matthew cry it triggers his PTSD really bad. And so knowing that now, I've always tried to, as soon as Matthew cries, I try and go and stop him, which maybe isn't the best thing, but trying to help Matthew and trying to help my husband at the same time. So hearing him just scream like that, it broke my husband down, and that hurt my heart so much to, one, know that my baby is hurting, and then know that my husband is hurting, and not being able to go to both of them at the same time was very hard. That happened like on Tuesday morning is whenever we got admitted and all of that. So Wednesday, they were wanting to send us home Wednesday, and that we had barely gotten his heart rate down and his temperature down, and I was like, I don't know that I really want to go home yet, just to end up coming back if that happens. And so they let us stay. However, Wednesday is when my husband and I started feeling symptoms. So we both started running a fever, and I was like, this is just fantastic. So all of that happened at like, he was like 5.5 months around that time. So we leave the hospital. He's totally fine. He's doing much better. And once he broke his fever, he was basically better by Wednesday. He never spiked another fever. His heart rate was totally fine. So it was more just us being precautious by keeping him there one more day. So once we got home, he had a little bit of a cough and a little stuffy nose, but he was totally back to normal once we got home. Other than his poor little voice was so hoarse from crying so much from them doing all of the needles and all of that kind of stuff. So again, I want to say that too, just because I know a lot of moms in some of the groups, they get so fearful about the babies getting the big C, and not to say that little ones, it doesn't impact them and they don't get, major symptoms. My little one did not. And so, I just want to give you some encouragement that it might not be that bad, is just what I want to say. So we got home. Again, sleeping is still terrible at this point. And Matthew is to the point now where he's not even like making it 3 hours once I put him down. I usually put him down between 7:45 and 8. And by the time he's done feeding and all that, and he wasn't even making it to like 10:30 at this point. He's already awake by like 9:30, 10. And this has been going on since probably the middle of July. And this is the middle of August at this point. And I am beyond exhausted now, and I can tell that it's impacting me mentally. I am so drained by the end of the day, and as soon as I'm done feeding him, the only thing I want to do is go to bed and to get a smidgen of sleep that I can find in the day. And so I'm irritable, which is impacting me and Jason and our relationship. So we'd already planned a trip to go to this lake house that my friend has before anything happened. So this is the week after we all got the big C. I was nervous to go on that trip because of how bad the sleeping was. But I was like, you know what? It might be okay. It might be all right. Totally wishful thinking. That trip was my breaking point because he didn't even make it an hour. And thankfully their house has an upstairs, and it's got 2, I think they were queen beds up there. And so I had to basically go into the second bed and try and sleep in there with Matthew, like holding Matthew with me. And it was miserable because, I want him to be safe and I want him to be okay. And so I'm not really sleeping at all. I'm just sitting there holding him and making sure that he's fine. And it was so bad so that we left early. We cut it a day short, and I said, I can't do this. I can't do it again. And so we came home, and I had told my husband, I was like, that's it. We've got to do something. We've got to sleep train or something because I can't do this anymore. And we had talked about sleep training before all of this had happened, a couple of weeks, and my husband wasn't on board with it because he didn't want, Matthew to be in his room just crying. And so I had done some research on different methods and whatnot, and I want to do a whole video on what we decided to do and all that. So when we got back, we implemented that immediately. And by the 3rd night, Matthew was completely back to normal, back to sleeping all the way through up to like 4 or 5 in the morning. So it was not as bad as what we thought it would be. And so I was so grateful because I got back to the point where I could start pumping again at night and, not risk my supply being tanked because of this terrible sleep pattern that we had went through. All that to say that everything is much better now. However, I do want to touch on the fact that, because I know that so many couples struggle with this as well, in that, like I said, it was impacting my mood. And so it was coming into our marriage because I was so tired. I was drained. I wasn't really talking because the last thing I wanted to do was like sit up at night and have a conversation. Not that I didn't want to have a conversation with my husband, but I just like, the only thing I could think of is I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep for like 2 hours to get something. But it's so detrimental to your marriage when you get into those hard times with, you know, with newborns and with babies, and if you're not communicating and saying like, you know, what you need. And I'm totally guilty of that because I needed help, but I wasn't asking for it. And my husband can't help me if I'm not asking for it. And I did, towards the very end, I did tell him like, I need you to either, if we're not going to sleep train, I need you to take a turn. Like, you need to either go up into the early times, let me sleep a little bit, because I knew Matthew was fine. Like, he wasn't waking up because he was hungry. He just got into something where he couldn't connect those sleep cycles or whatever, and it was just keeping him awake. And so that's why I was like, take the early like shift or whatever and let me sleep. And then if, you know, after midnight or whatnot, I can take that shift and because then you might be hungry, and that's where mom comes in. So so that's kind of where we were for about a week or so, and until we went on that little lake trip, and I just kind of threw my hands up and I said, that's it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like I said, he has been sleeping through the night again. We are kind of back to normal, if you will. I'm feeling so much better. I'm feeling more rested when I wake up in the morning, and my husband and I are, you know, back to communicating better, and that relationship is now, you know, thriving and whatnot. And I bring that up just because I never wanted to hide anything or make it sound like, oh, everything's perfect here in the Gocher household. It's not. We struggle and we fight and we argue just like everybody else. And so I bring all that up because I just want you to know that there have been hard times, and, you know, everybody's going to go through it. But my advice to anybody, any new moms and dads, is just, you have to talk to your partner. Ladies, if you are needing help or you're needing something, make sure that you're talking to your spouse, because they cannot read your mind and know what you need. So, and I am 100% guilty of that, because I just was trying to do it all, and I cannot do it all, and I've learned my lesson. So I do have another video coming. It is going to be talking about mastitis, because I have had it not once, not twice, but 3 different times. It is awful, and I just want to tell you about my journey with that, what happened. I got admitted to the hospital, my tips for how to avoid it, and what I do now if I notice that it's coming on, and all of that stuff. So I do want to go back into breastfeeding and telling you guys where I'm at now, and just filling you all in on that, because breastfeeding is hard. So it's just hard. But thank you for watching. I was trying to make this really quick just to give you guys an update on where I've been and why I've been gone, and all of that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any prayer requests, please make sure you drop those below. I love praying for you guys every single week. Even though I may not have had a video coming out, I'm still praying for all of you guys and all of you on your journeys to becoming mamas, or if you already have your little ones and you're in that new mom phase. So got little guy up from his little nap. So that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, make sure you give a big thumbs up, click that little subscribe button, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a blessed week, guys.